Hello everyone. This is probably going to be a bit of a weird video, and I'll explain that in a bit. This is the second in a unknown number of part series that I do every October. That is a lie. That I do sometimes in October is more accurate. That I've done twice, counting this time as... I've never done it. The whole thing was a lie. But this is a series in which I take unknown cryptids from around the world, like lesser-known ones, and I turn them into monster girls for monetization purposes, even though I don't monetize any of these videos, because it's YouTube. So leave in the comments below ideas for some sort of weird cryptid from your part of the woods, and maybe I'll draw it. Who knows? I've collected quite a few of them already, but there's always room to explore. And it's hard to store all of them for later reference materials. So, the first one in the series was the Plaguetober, I think it was, which was a Romanian vampire-werewolf hybrid creature. This time around, it is going to be the Finnish firefox, which is known, as the Tulikettu. I'm going to be mispronouncing these words, and you will have to endure it. The Tulikettu, Tuliripo, or Tulikko. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce those words, but I am absolutely certain that I did mispronounce them, and that's what truly matters. Okay. So, as you watch me, by the way, whenever I'm drawing these things, I'm really trying to find a way to overly sexualize these things. It is very important. The idea that I had with this thing, the reason why I drew this picture in the first place, is because someone suggested it within the comments, of course, and then I thought this would be interesting to color. Because it is... The premise of it essentially is a fox whose tail becomes the Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis. And I thought that would be interesting to draw. That would sort of be in my wheelhouse, even though it has green, and I'm not big on green. So whenever I'm doing the posing, I'm actually just trying to think of a way to not only exhibit the design of the entire creature, quote unquote creature, but also to sell the entire idea in the first place. So how do I transition the tail into being the sky itself while also showing off the entire body? And that sounds like it'd be something that'd be simple. It is not simple. And in fact, it's a big pain in the ass. Also coupled with the fact that all of you are perverts probably watching this. Or ever so often there's someone that's like, no, I just find this interesting. Which, good for you, buddy. Good for you being a liar. No, I'm kidding. Since I'm trying to, lewd this up to some minor degree, it's really not that important to me, actually, but, funny joke. I also have to try to show off the TNA a little bit. So, couple that with the posing, it gets kind of to be a pain in the ass. Okay, so, that's the premise. The fun bit of this video is that there's almost no information on this thing. Just about. What little information there actually is re-emphasized in the same language over and over again, whenever you can actually find it. So I ended up having to sort of read between the lines with a lot of this stuff. In the research of this video, there's actually several things that go into making these videos. It's not just the drawing. Like, sure, I have to go through all your comments and see what thing sounds like it would be a good idea, then cross-reference that with basic information to see if there's any information on it in the first place. I have to determine what the thing would look like, how to turn it into a monster girl sort of thing for the premise of the series. Whether or not I would be able to achieve any of these effects, whether or not it would be marketable in the first place. If there's anything to talk about, whether it's appropriate. actually physically drawing the thing, doing cross-references to see if it's something that is well-known. If it's really well-known, then I won't bother with it. If it is something that has an existing property associated with it, sometimes I won't do it. There was one I did back in 2016, I think. Talipo, I think is its name. And that one has like a book series, or a book at least, associated with it. And I almost didn't bother doing that one. But that was a cute design. I'm glad I did that one. So, point being, that was the first split second, the Pricklichi. This part I was actually doing on stream. Later on, you'll see a few photographs pop up, and you'll wonder, why did those photographs pop up? It's because I was on stream and I was telling people that I used to do photography, so I was just showing people some examples of it. So, yeah, if I see it, I'll mention it. Okay, so, what the hell is this thing? That is a good question. Of course, the premise is that the premise is so basic, there's almost nothing to talk about. It is a firefox. Literally, I think the word Tulikettu means fire, Tuli, and Kettu is fox. So just firefox. That's all it is. And the other variations of the name, what was it? Teleko. I think the KKO at the end of that one just means person, so literally it just means fire person. And Tuluripo, apparently Ripo is like just another word or another suffix for fox in most cases. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I don't know what that means. Okay, it is a nickname for foxes, or just Vulpic things. But it also has a bunch of other variations that I will not go into because it's really nothing important. But you can tell with me that one of the reasons why I like doing this series is because I fall down the rabbit hole, or the foxhole in this case, and I start getting really interested in just various little factoids about things, and I just like learning things in general, especially if they're weird and obscure. Anyways, if you go looking, there is not really a story associated with this, there's more just an idea. So the idea is that this is just a fox associated with the north, specifically Finland, usually most associated with Lapland, which is a region within Finland. It is typically described as being black, with fur that sort of twinkles in the daylight, and I'll go into that in a second. And sometimes it is chased by a hunter, or it was chased by a hunter once. Whether this is an actual story or not is kind of vague. And when it was being chased, its fur lit up and its tail ignited, and the sparks that came off of its body as it was running through the forest flew up into the sky and became the Northern Lights. And that's the premise. There's my photos. There you go. Weren't those nice? Anyways, back to this. So, hope you enjoyed my photos. I actually tried to get a hold of a LumiTuber, who's a VTuber from Finland. She's very nice, by the way. I would suggest that you watch her. She's a really pleasant young girl. Very entertaining. A little bit crazy, which is exactly what you should be if you're a VTuber. She knows quite a bit about, Finnish customs and whatnot, so I asked her if she had any information on this, and she sent me like a screenshot of the Wikipedia page, which I took that to mean, I don't fucking know, which goes to show you just how little anyone really knows about all this stuff. I talked about this in my prior video, but a lot of this, the research of these things, the mythology, comes down to there just being a very loose idea of what something is in that region. In the prior video, I talked about how there was a lot of overlap, so you could refer to something as being an elf or a goblin or a hag or a ghost or something, or a vampire or a werewolf. And in more traditional customs, like in modern times, we've codified all these things, and they have very specific meanings. But back in the day, these terms didn't really mean much of anything other than... And by the way, there, I think I was looking something up for 10 minutes. Back in the day, these sorts of things did not really have a specific meaning. They all had overlap, and they all meant sort of the same general thing. By the way, I was drawing this fox high as a kite, so I really had to change the eyes. So, whenever you are trying to research these things, you'll find a lot of that sort of deal going on. Let me organize my thoughts. So whenever it comes to the Firefox specifically, I'll just go with this one. When it comes to the Firefox specifically, the sort of subtype of this kind of problem is that the Firefox is one of these types where it is just an idea. There's no story associated with it. There's no story. There's no story at all. Sometimes some of these myths have a specific a tale that comes from it. Or there was some sort of historical event and everything was based off of that. Or it is an evolution of a idea from a neighboring country, which is, as I mentioned in the prior video, where the concept of dragons came from. It was a South African concept that evolved over time and transferred upwards through the Middle East into India and China, back through Russia and into Europe. And it just became different things over time. By the way, if you hear any wheezing, my dog Butch is behind me sleeping. It's actually 3 a.m. right now because I'm a madman. And he's just having dreams and doing little kickies. So, the Firefox. The Firefox is just an idea. And the idea is just that. It's just that it is apparently a black fox that people will sometimes hunt, and its tail becomes the sky. And that's it. So in the research of it, the reason why I was not finding anything is because it is just an idea. And I imagine that whenever... these days, whenever we associate myths and things, we think, oh, there's a reference material, right? There's a singular story, or there is a Bram Stoker's Dracula sort of deal, where you can go back and look at it and go, oh, it was actually this. Vampires used to be able to make weird energy fields that would just fly in the sky, and you read that what the fuck? And yeah, they used to have this power, and just no one thinks about it because it was kind of stupid, so people just forgot about it. Nothing like that. It's a fox. That's it. And some things are like that. But I did some crawling and I found some other things. Because if I just looked up a Wikipedia article, the Wikipedia article on this is very, very short. It just mentions, and you can find it yourself, but it's tail twinkles fire. It was up in the north. Tail becomes northern lights. If this is a weird thing, in some of the little stories, they say that it has never been caught, but then other ones it says, yeah, people use their pelts or their fur after they've killed them to illuminate places that have explosives or caves or things, places where things would ignite, because it's like Minecraft, like putting the glow blocks into an area instead of torches. It's something like that. And that is pretty much it. That's it. Okay, so as far as the Wikipedia level stuff goes, almost nothing. The Northern Lights themselves are, I think, called Revanchulits. And I think that means foxfires. So even the Northern Lights themselves in Finland are named after this concept. Now, there is also a loose association with this concept with another concept, and in Finland, with their mythology, they have sort of gods in their own way. There seems to be a hierarchy. I did some research. Honestly, I didn't have enough time to be able to do like really heavy research into this because, the premise was so thin in the first place. But in Finland, there seems to be the concept of emu, or emu, I don't know. They are sort of like gods. They are like matrons, or I think literally the word can be translated as mother. But they're effectively gods that are associated with very, very specific things, and they're always female. Which, works wonders for me if I want to be pervert and come up with some sort of stupid reason why does it have tits? Mother gods or something. Stop asking questions. So, there is a connotation in ancient Finnish mythology with femininity and birth and like giving life and things of that nature. And there is a goddess or matron or whatever, mother, spirit mother, called, I think, Karatar. I am saying that very incorrectly. But sometimes it is... Sometimes that name is associated with being the matron of foxes or the matron of flames. And there is another one. Let's see if I can find it. Yes, Lucatar. There's another one called Lucatar, and she's associated with black foxes specifically. So there's sort of an overlap there. This Karatar is associated with foxes sometimes, and then other times the Lucatar is associated with foxes. Specifically black foxes, from what I gather. So you could say that there's an association with... you can see the overlap here. This is what I'm going for. There's an association with foxes and fire in the first place. Both because foxes are red, so, flames, that's one part of it. The more interesting part of it to me was because the area Lapland is... This is the thing I wanted to get to. In the area Lapland, the weather there is so dry but also cold that the animals there that, have fur, I don't know why they're penguins, I don't know. The animals there, the mammals, have a lot of problem with static electricity. It builds up very, very easily. And supposedly this does happen. Foxes, especially, will exhibit sparks on their fur during especially cold, dry spells, because they're actually building up static electricity, and whenever they rub up against things, the fact that they aren't grounded is causing them to exhibit sparks, which I thought was really interesting, because with the Karatar goddess thing, the only really information that I could find about that is she's not like a helper to the foxes. It always says that the goddess helps hunters to find the foxes, which I thought, oh well, it sucks to be the foxes. The goddesses really have it out for them, I guess. You would think it'd be the other way around, but no. So a lot of the Finnish mythology seems to also center around the idea of hunting things, and often that is the case with mythologies of specific areas. It's usually associated with whatever their culture happens to be. And in Finnish mythology, or just paganism or whatever, there is a lot of association with the sky, animals, breathing, and like motherhood or life. So obviously, this sort of has a track back to the fact that so much of their culture was associated with, how they lived, which would be hunting, gathering, existing within a wild area that was very heavily wooded, very cold, very open. I took a look at some of the geography in the area, and there's a lot of conifer there's a lot of like pine trees and stuff like that, but not much else. It's a very wide open area. It's not exactly mountainous. It is kind of hilly in places, but it's not like, outrageously so. It's kind of open in specific areas. So you can see how there's a lot of association with that sort of open woodland, and especially the open sky. And also it being, cold and dry and things of that nature, why there would also be an association with breath and spirit and protecting your immediate area, cultivating things, things of that nature. You sort of have to view these things in a very abstract way, and that sort of helps to make sense out of some of these myths. So what the hell the point was I trying to make? So the goddess is associated with like hunting. That's what it was. So the lifestyle obviously is going to center mainly around hunting foxes, hunting anything they can get their hands on. Supposedly the most revered animal in Finnish myth was the bear. Then I think followed up by a swan, if I remember correctly. So no leads there. I was hoping to be like, oh yes, the fox is highly revered. No one gives a shit about the fox. Just, it exists. It exists to die, unfortunately. Built to die. World as a fuck. Poor fox. Here I was trying to be cheap and trying to create some sort of very loose texture that I could use to sort of... Because black foxes have this very particular texture as a result of their fur being black and white at the same time. They have a very specific look. I didn't want to bother trying to replicate it because I felt it would overpower the image. So I just tried to futz about with it until I got something that sort of created a little bit of texture without overpowering the image. I can't remember if I keep any of it, but I was just playing. Part of drawing is just playing with things until you find sort of an effect or a move that you do like. Like I've said before in all my videos, drawing, creating, writing, even doing these videos where I'm telling you about things, it's all about learning. And that's the process. You're just learning. You're watching me learn. Okay, so that's what all the Finnish mythologies are associated with. Like breathing, hunting, open sky, blah, blah, blah. So you can sort of see how this stuff fits together, pieces together in its own way. And because of I already mentioned because of how cold in the environment, sparks do fly off their bodies. So you could see how maybe there was a point in the past where old Finnish hunters were tracking foxes, and because they were easier to spot, black foxes, if you were come across, I don't know what the patterns of, some animals, well, I'm sure there's a term for this. There's always some scientific term. But you know how animals will become white in the winter? Like rabbits will lose their brown fur and become white as the temperature changes or as the days change. I'm not sure what triggers it exactly. And that helps them to survive during the winter because they're harder to see. I don't know if black foxes are always black or if they actually lose their hair or something. That'd be another rabbit hole for me to journey down, but you get the idea. Anyways. Yes. Also, me drawing this aurora. This is something that really, at the time, whenever I came up with this idea for this drawing, it's like, oh, that'd be nice. But then I thought that might be a problem. And as I kept drawing it, I already knew it was going to be a problem, so it's not like I tricked myself. But imagine the nightmare of, yeah, one of the most mystical, beautiful things that have just haunted humans forever, the Aurora Borealis, this mystical foxfire, this beautiful thing that can't be replicated. You need to actually see it to believe it. Oh, it's so amazing. Just draw it. Yeah, just for this video that you're doing, that you're mass producing, just cranking out crap on YouTube. For the unwashed masses, the horny masses, just draw one real fast and figure it out. Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. That's what I'm doing here. Just cranking one out for you. Just for you. Okay. But you can see how that probably happened. There was probably a hunter somewhere that was actually following a black fox because they're easier to see. Assuming that they stay black during the winter. I don't know. I'm just talking on my ass here. But it was probably something that happened a few times where they were, tracking this fox, and then they actually saw it emitting sparks. And of course, they had no idea what the hell static electricity was, really. Or maybe they did, but they didn't quite understand it that much. Because, obviously people create static electricity and we see sparks. I've even in the past seen... even sitting in bed, I've seen a spark raise off my body. And especially, we have, gates we have to open and close that are sort of in this area. This is not a gated community, we're just rednecks. And whenever you touch them, of course, that will also send off sparks in some cases. There have been times where in the process of touching something and emitting that static electricity, as the discharge, equalizes whatever forces are at play there, it will actually send up a combustion. It actually ignites whatever is in the local area, in the immediate area that spark. And you'll actually see fire for a split second, just poof, in and out of existence, and you'll see the smoke that gets left behind. And I'm sure something like that must have been incredibly fascinating and very frightening for ancient people. And even today, it's something that you don't really expect, and it's just really sort of mesmerizing in a way. That's one of those neat little things that I feel like we sort of lose. The world is less magical today, which almost thank goodness. Now that we have science and a little bit more rational thinking, so things are not quite as mystical as they used to be. But it is a part of the human experience to feel those things. And it is okay to be bewildered, even though you can explain something and rationalize it and what's going on. It is okay to just be mystified and amazed by, things of that nature. Because I think that's part of science as well. It doesn't have to be clinical and cold. Part of science is just being amazed by things and then afterwards being able to rationalize and explain them in a way that allows you to share that in a coherent way with other people that isn't just rooted completely in emotion, your personal experience. And that's a really neat part of science. But anyways, back to the pagan mythology that we were talking about. Let's see. Yes. There's several things I wanted to talk about. Okay, so you can see how this probably transpired. There was probably a real event that happened, and it happened consistently among different people. And this general idea of chasing a fox, sometimes it will spark. And people don't really believe it unless they see it. But just the fact that was happening made it an experience worth sharing, and that developed into a myth in its own right. And that's probably also the reason why there's not really a story associated with this. It's just an idea. And it's probably an idea... this is part of it that really interests me. Because there are different kinds of myths. And the ones that are just like this, where they're just sort of an idea, I am imagining, I have no evidence of this, but it's probably because they're just rooted in everyday things that were occurring. And it's just a loose idea. Because whenever you share something like this, you would probably tell your kids, oh, this is a firefox. it is a black fox that has like a shining body, and its tail created the northern lights. And that's it. That's as far as it goes. And if they ask if there's a specific story about it, you won't really have one because it's just a loose idea. And it's a loose idea because hunters will show back up at the house and go, I saw a fox that actually was emitting fire from its body. Or it was sparking. Like almost like it was glowing as I was chasing it. And I was not able to actually get a hold of it. Or maybe it was just like an elusive thing, and whenever people actually did manage to bag one of these black foxes, because it became associated with the ease of visibility that comes with this effect, then they were prized things that they would talk about. And that's where that stuff comes from. Whereas there are other myths that are more associated with a direct story, because it was almost like sort of an ancient viral effect, where the story itself was either exciting enough or it became politicized because of some association with something else, that it lingered as a concept and evolved over time, or became part of a tradition because the story became important or vital to keeping people in line, or for solidifying family ties. Like there's some sort of evolved mechanism behind it that made it very important to the people living there. So that part of mythology has always really interested me, because of the fact that there's so many reasons for why an idea propagates and why it actually becomes important. So in some cases it's because of something political or something social that was like frightening people at the time, or was something that was important to maintaining power, or in some cases it's just something that was so consistently observed in nature that people needed a way to share that experience and to be able to explain it, and the only way of actually doing that was to create this myth, this concept that was somewhat easily explained by reducing it down to something kind of ridiculous in a way. And I think given enough time I'm going to try to do two more of these. I hope it's not just one more. It seems so disappointing to only do 3 videos, but I'm hoping with the next one I'll sort of evolve on this idea as I learn more about these sorts of things, and maybe find an example of something that is a variation of that, maybe something that is political, where it seems like it was obvious that there's some sort of underlying current to the story behind it. Because in this case, this was the track back with this research. Even though I couldn't really find anything on the Firefox itself, the fact that I found this peripheral information around it helped me to piece together what life must have been like for people back then, and also what probably was going on that made the myth happen in the first place. And to me, that's really interesting, because it's almost like doing Dark Souls lore. It's like actual science. You are piecing things together very slowly and rationally by just observing the circumstances around it. And that is science, sort of, sometimes. If it's if it's actually grounded, then it's science. Otherwise, you're kind of just bullshitting. You always have to be careful about that. Okay, so something else I wanted to mention is Lapland. Because of the fact that it looks the way that it does, it also has been connected with the stories of like Santa Claus and just, Christmas itself as well. So it's pretty common in that area of Finland for Christmas to be marketed very heavily towards more Christmas-associated cultures, I guess. I think especially in the UK, it's quite popular to associate Lapland with Christmas. I think one of the leaders... Yes. Oh, here it is. Lapland is connected with the legendary North Pole home of Santa Claus since 1927, when Finnish radio host Markus Ralsio said that Santa Claus lived on some crazy-ass name, Korvatuntuuri. Goodness. a fell mountain in the region. Later, Rovaniemi, I don't know who that is, staked a claim as Santa's official hometown and developed the Santa Claus village attraction to encourage tourism. So, anyways, you can see where this is going. A lot of the reason why myths and legends are associated with this specific area is because of what it physically looks. Here, I'm just playing. I was just trying to see if I could be cheap. I could not. You can see where it's coming from. A lot of the myths and everything are associated with just the way that the area looks and what can be done, what sort of resources that you can be gained from that area and whatnot. In the case of Lapland, it seems like because of its association with hunting and gathering, preserving nature, being part of nature, obviously there's a very heavy association with those things, and the myths and legends that come out of that area end up being more heavily ascribed to those things, even if it's Santa Claus in this case. From what I gather, this idea of the firefox actually is not that popular in this area. Even though like the Finns seem to have this really strong association with their culture, being like all European places. Here, the final image. A lot of European countries are like this. It's not like this in America. In America, you live in states, and states are usually about the size of a country, but they don't really have strong personalities or cultures associated with them. There's like one or two things, but for the most part, it's just we're Americans. We're part of the United States. And there's very specific peoples that have their own things, but people are really not that aware of them. We don't really think about them too much, so a lot of culture is just sort of lost on us. But with European countries, they're so old, and they were so disconnected in the past, that it became more common for things to be more insular and developed into little bitty pockets. So the association with geography and cultures and like economics and things of that nature is more closely tied, I think, with old world things. Whereas in the Americas, the only thing that we really had were, native population, their mythologies, because, they were there during that era, and now those are lost because they were just wiped out because of European settlers. So really, you're the blame for this as well. But yes. When it comes to mythologies, these are the things that I think about. And the firefox is just one very small sort of example of this. Where that's the thing, like, that's the takeaway for me. It's just, I had this one moment of, okay, firefox, whatever, there's almost no information on this. Associated, like, I was wondering, why is this code associated with it being shiny? Like, why is that such a thing? And then I found one little blurb somewhere of someone mentioning that because of the climate, foxes' pelts will actually emit sparks along with other animals, just whatever. And that's whenever it all pieced together, and I was like, oh, I get it now. That's what's going on. And then this complete coherent story of some unnamed hunter somewhere actually seeing this thing and seeing that for the first time in human history. All of that sort of pieced together, and everything made sense to me in that one moment. And that's what I like about this sort of thing, the mythology and everything, is by exploring mythologies, you can actually have like a human connection with someone that may have existed in the past that no one will ever know. Because the way that you react to something is going to be the way that they reacted to whatever it is that they saw. And you're also, whereas they explore that in terms of mythology, you can view it from the perspective of modern science if you want to. And even the modern perspective that we have with our understanding of history. Because we have the internet at our fingertips and we can look up anything. That's the modern form of this sort of mystical connection with nature and the miracle of just being able to see things occurring within nature and be marveled by it. That's what I like about October. This is the reason why I like doing this sort of stuff during October. October is my favorite month. And it's because I can walk outside and have that connection. Because the seasons are changing, the temperature is exactly what it should be. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. If it is too cold, then it's just a little bit, it's perfect weather. And in other parts of the world, this is not the same. Obviously, this is more of a states thing, I suppose, or European Northern Hemisphere. The trees are changing. Everything is very colorful. Everything's very crisp. It's such a specific moment in time, and whenever it's gone, it's gone. It's one of the few modern connections to the sort of spiritual life that you can still have and have it make perfect sense. So, that's what it is. I just want to be able to share that sort of connection with the rest of you by exploring mythologies and by giving foxes tits. I'm a very simple man with very simple desires. Anyways, here's another video for you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it gets more. How many views did the last one get? Probably like 5,000 or something. No one gives a shit about me anymore. I'm a forgotten beast. It got almost 12,000. That's about right for me, I suppose. So here's to another 10,000 views. YouTube doesn't care about me. It doesn't recommend my videos unless they're anime related, unfortunately. It even recommends my own fucking anime videos to me. Like, I don't want to watch them. These are the least proud videos that I have, but people won't stop watching that shit. I don't even monetize them. Like, if you see ads, it's because Toei's making money off of it, for God's sakes. Anyways. Okay, once this is done, as I mentioned, I'm going to go back to trying to animate if I can get the commissions. Oh, I forgot about the Unity thing. I was trying to... There's too many things. There's just too many things I need to do. I was trying to write. I'm doing that video I was talking about. I want to animate some shorts because I want something that's more condensed that doesn't rely on hiring out voice actors. Anyways, but that's November shit. October is the month of relaxation. This is the best month. Please enjoy it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Leave your suggestions down below for any weird-ass local myths that you might want to have explored. And I'll put some tits on it, and then we'll jack off together and talk about how intellectual we are. Good old Plague Your Gripes content. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.